Hello and welcome to the True Man podcast, the podcast designed to create a generation of self-defined men. Today, I'm joined by Gavin Thrope, the co-founder and co-CEO of Talk Club. Gavin, it's an absolute pleasure. How are you doing?
Hey, Lewis. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, it's great to see you.
Awesome. Gavin, I'm going to start with the hard one. In your
Yeah.
own words, what makes you a man?
Do you know what? You emailed me this, didn't you, in the week? And I've not stopped thinking about it. It's a really good question. I think it's a fantastic question. And I'm going to go with my initial reaction and explain that. What was interesting, because as well as being a co-founder and a co-CEO of Talk Club, I'm also a fully qualified therapist as well. So, yeah, so I've been thinking about it existentially as well and very deeply. But what was interesting was when I asked myself that question, I was really aware of the negativity I was feeling towards it. And I thought that was really interesting response.
Yeah.
Just the word man now, for me, I was like, oh, that feels really negative. And that's where I went to first. Like, I'm one of them. I'm a man who, and then immediately I'm just thinking of Trump and Farage and toxic masculinity, and I always thought that was really interesting. My initial response to that question, I went there first. I'll be honest, Lewis. I went to no, that's not. Oh, yeah, men. Oh God. Oh no, and that's sadness. I think and not necessarily saying that's how all society view men, but there's definitely feeling that negativity in language. But then after a while of thinking about it, I obviously wanted to think about, just finished watching the amazing documentary called The Last Dance, by Michael Jordan and Sugar Balls. And I was thinking about him and how incredible he was, talented and strong and all these amazing things. And for me, what makes me a man is that way of a new way of thinking, a new age man, I suppose. I feel I'm a very compassionate, loving person. Biologically, I have a penis, and that's that. But spiritually and mentally, in my mind. But I think I'm more intrigued by the the negativity it brought on me, actually, and that impact it has on me. I thought that was very interesting. That's why I wanted to share it, that actually it didn't feel like a good thing to be a man, and I think that was quite poignant.
That's really interesting. Thanks for your honesty. That's good as well. I asked that question because I think men should ask it to themselves a lot more, and I hope this sort of encourages that. I guess from that exercise, do you agree with that? Do you think it is a question that men should ask themselves? What makes you a man?
Yes, absolutely. But I did kept going the other way with it as well, because I've got two children. I was going to ask them what makes you a boy, and but I didn't want to, because I didn't want their answer to influence my answer. So I've been careful not to share this question, because I really like the question. I think it's really powerful. What makes you a boy? What makes you a man? All this. 100% agree. I've been thinking about it every day for the last week, and I didn't want to come up with a convoluted, fake, inauthentic answer. I wanted to be as honest as possible. So that's why I thought, well, I'm going to go with my initial reaction. But yeah, it's very similar to what we do at Talk Club of how are you out of 10. I call it a shortcut to the truth. Asking yourself how are you out of 10. It's a real shortcut to what's really going on in your life. And I like this question because I ask sometimes with clients, funnily enough, and it's a similar sort of thing. I sometimes ask my clients, do you like you? Which is a similar sort of thing in that simplicity of what you're saying about what makes you a man. I ask clients, what do you like you? And that's always really interesting, the answer, because they always have, like that, stop and go, I've never thought about that. I've never thought, do I like what? It's everyone else tells me if they like me or don't like me. I've never thought about what I think. Like, oh yeah. And it's a very similar thing as this. Everyone tells me that I'm a man. Everyone tells me how a man should be and how they should behave, or how bad they are, or the impact they're having on the world, the negative. But I've not stopped and asked myself, okay, what makes me a man?
Yeah, I really like that as a follow-on question. So, like, what makes you a man? and do you like that?
Yeah.
Like, are you happy? Yeah, like it's quite a cool way of sort of digging into it even more. I like that. That's cool. So why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about what Talk Club is?
Yes. Thank you. We are a men's mental health charity. We refer to ourselves as a mental fitness charity, really. We like to use the language mental fitness, and I'll talk a little bit about why we talk about mental fitness. But we're a men's mental health charity. We started 6.5 years ago. 6.5 years ago, the co-founders, there was 6 of us. Original co-founders, but in the very first Talk Club session there was 5 of us, because one of the co-founders was a female, and females weren't allowed into the Talk Club group session. So it was actually the first 5 co-founders who did the first Talk Club session behind a back of a pub in Bristol, and it was just us. That was it, and we just thought, right, okay. It came out of the back of a documentary. My co-founder and co-CEO Ben Akers made this wonderful documentary about his childhood best friend who took his life, sadly. The documentary is called Steve. It's out there online if you want to look it up, Steve documentary. He made this documentary, and all of us met. So 2 or 3 of the guys were actually in the film, and that's how Ben met them. And then Ben met me, mainly because both our children go to the same primary school, but we're both big Arsenal fans. And we got introduced that way of, oh, you both like Arsenal, you should meet this guy. And we got chatting over that. And then he was telling me about this film. And in a former life of mine, I used to be a musician, and I've made a couple of albums. We got chatting about his documentary he was making. I said, well, look, if you ever want any music, please feel free to use my songs, for free. I'd be honored. So he ended up using 8 songs of mine in the film, and that's how we met. And then while we were chatting about the film and the impact, and I was sort of saying, what do you want to do next after the film's out there and everyone's watched it? What's the sort of follow on, really, I suppose? What's next? The action part of it. And he was saying, I'm thinking about setting up some kind of talking group. I'm not sure. And so I just said, well, look, at that point, I was coming towards the end of my therapy training. And I said, well, I'd be interested in helping from a therapeutic point of view, in getting involved in helping you set up the Talk Club. So that was it. Talk Club was born. Fast forward to 6.5 years later, and we've got over 150 Talk Clubs around the UK. We've got Talk Clubs in 14 different prisons as well. We're doing a lot in the prison service. We're working with businesses, and we've got our own alcohol-free beer, as you can see behind me, called Clearhead. We've got our own coffee. It's just gone from strength to strength. Liam Gallagher is one of our patrons who wore this T-shirt, How Are You Out of 10? And Tyson Fury. And it's just been an incredible ride, I'll be honest. And I feel absolutely privileged to be part of it. But me and Ben always joke that we're CEOs of a charity we never meant to start. We didn't mean to start a charity. It happened almost by accident, but that we identified there was a need. And then once we started running the groups and seeing men turning up, we thought, okay, there's something here. We keep going. And now we've helped thousands of men out there, and it's been incredible. It's been incredible. I feel very privileged to be part of it.
Amazing. I really want to get into that question. How are you out of 10? For men, how are you out of 10 different to how are you?
Well, it's a good question, and that's why we purposely, as you can see on my shoulder, we purposely put how are you ? And then out of 10 ? We purposely wanted it to be 2 questions in one, if you like, and we did that on purpose because so many people say how are you. You walk down the street, how are you? You all right? Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, or they actually almost answer the question for you because they actually say, how are you? All right? And like, yeah, I'm all right. Thanks for answering my question. But so that's why we thought, well, it's how are you? But out of 10, how are you? And that's why it was really important, the language. And that's where the mental fitness side comes in, because we felt as a charity, there was lots of charities working down this end, if you like, further down the river, more in the suicide space, really. And we felt there wasn't what were people doing in more of the preventative space, in the mental fitness space, helping people to really understand what's going on. And there's so much awareness now, and it's I'm okay, you're okay, we're okay, be okay, ask twice, all this stuff. And we just felt like, actually, we need to measure this. It'd be fantastic. This is nothing new we've invented. Doctors been doing it for years. You know, when my son goes to doctors, the doctors will say, how is that out of 10 for pain? You know, and you'd give them a number and they'd understand. So we just thought, well, we were really surprised that that mental health isn't measured, and
Yeah.
and if we can measure it, then we can start to understand ourselves better. And in turn, gives us some resilience, because also what's great about the How You Out of 10, and we've actually got an app now, an How You Out of 10 app, to help you. So every day you can check in on the app and you can see your numbers and you can write in there a little bit about why you're that number, and it gives you a graph and all that stuff. But the great thing about that, what I like about it, is you can look at it and go, yeah, last week my numbers were quite low, and this time last year my average number was this, and you're actually building some resilience because you're starting to understand yourself better, and going, actually, yeah, and then yeah, I've noticed on Tuesdays, my numbers drop. Oh yeah, and Wednesdays when I go to the gym, that's weird. My numbers go up. You start to sort of see these patterns, and How Are You Out of 10 really helps with that. And also with we call them talk and listen groups as well. The men who attend the sit in the circle groups, talk and listen, and we also have talk and exercise. And in the talk and listen groups, we wanted to understand that every man who comes to us, is it having an impact? Are they walking away better than when they walked in? Otherwise, what's really the point? It's
Yeah.
great saying having a place to come and talk, but what impact are you having? So we wanted to. That's why we come up with what we start every talk club, and that includes the talk and exercise and our therapy groups. We start with How Are You Out of 10? Explain why you're that number. We have 4 rounds. The second round is the gratitude round. Talk about what you're grateful in your life. What is the positives in your life? Round 3 is explore mental fitness. Share with a focus on diet, sleep, and exercise. And then round 4 is How Are You Out of 10 now? What's your number now? And the great thing about that is we can keep notes of the numbers of men coming in and men going out, and actually really seeing the impact it's having on the community. And the same with the therapy groups. We get the numbers in and out. So it's a really simple way of understanding how we're really doing. And also, if I ask you a question of How Are You Out of 10, and you tell me the truth and you say, actually, I'm a 4, it's a conversation starter. It's, oh, okay,
Yeah.
you're a 4. Okay, is that low for you? What's going on for you? Well, actually, this is going on. Actually, can have a real conversation.
Yeah, for sure. You know the structure of your sessions, they're very, what's coming, right? How are
Yeah,
you? What you good? What you thankful for?
yeah,
Essentially, what your challenge is. How are
yeah,
you out of 10?
yeah.
Do you think breaking it down and giving that sort of preempt to guys really helps? Because I know from a going to therapy idea for men, it's that panic of having to tell them everything and this sort of fear that I'm going to be judged.
Absolutely. Um, Judged is a key word, actually, Lewis, because I think that's one thing that we're creating at Talk Club. Is I had this conversation with someone earlier. They asked me exactly that. What's the difference between men and women? How come women can meet up with friends and open up so easily, and men shut down? I said exactly that, because women, and obviously not all women, but majority of women feel comfortable being vulnerable. Whereas men, and again, the men that I've talked to in the community, aren't comfortable being vulnerable. They don't feel safe. And that is what Talk Club provides, is a safe space where men can come in, they can be vulnerable, share what's going on. And exactly that, Lewis, because they've got this preset questions, the men really like that, because they a lot, and that's what we heard early on. They were saying, I just don't know what to say. Where do I begin? And we're like, oh, don't look, just check in with your number. And we always say to everybody who comes for the first time, you can say as little or as much as you want. If you just want to say a number and that's it, then fine, that's what you're going to say. That's okay. And then some obviously come in and talk more. But what we always notice, by week 3, they start to open up a bit more and talk a little bit more about what's going on.
So the number 7 is sort of thrown around as a bit of a easy answer to the question. Do you allow sevens at Talk Club?
Well, we do, but what I generally do, especially with friends, if a friend said to me I'm a seven, or I would say, are you closer to six or closer to eight?
Yeah,
And 9 times out of 10, closer to six. Absolutely. So that's why I always check, because they will always stop and go, actually, yeah, I am closer to six. And I'm like, and now this is where it's interesting, because I think everyone's numbers are different. It's a number system, isn't it? The way
yeah,
you use your 1 to 10 will be different to mine. Now, for me, six is low, and that would be, I would say, the warning light would come on for me, like the warning light in a car. If I'm a six, I would start to ask myself, okay, your numbers are dropping. That's quite low for you. What's going on? Do you need more support? So I think the numbers are really important, how what you do for you. For example, I start at 10. So I always ask myself, not only how am I at 10, but I think, why am I not a 10? Okay, and I go backwards. And some days I actually am almost having an argument with myself going, why are you not a 10? And I'm going, almost trying to find reasons not to be a 10, because I'm like, the sun's out. I feel physically good. I feel mentally good. It's Friday. Yes, I'm at work, but yeah, do you know what? Why can't I be a 10? And that's an interesting conversation I've had with a few people. They've gone almost not allowed themselves. Some people said to me, oh, I couldn't allow myself to be a 9. Oh, God, no, not 10. No, I've been as high, 8's the highest I can go. And they're saying that out loud, allowing themselves to be that. So it's interesting.
that's really interesting you say that, because like a 10 for me would be your child or a wedding day.
Yes, exactly. But they are key moments in life. And I think that, and again, that's how you want to look at it, and that's fine. The way I look at it is they are key moments in my life that are very unique and special. They don't even come into the radar of the numbers. They are Spinal Tap 11, aren't they? They're just off the chart. They're just too special. And they're special for a reason. And in
Yeah.
that time, if you'd have asked me the day when my son was born, I would have said I was a million out of 10. It can't even put a number on it. It's so amazing. So this is day-to-day living, day-to-day life, day-to-day. And for me, the times when I'm my highest numbers, when I actually feel, it may sound cheesy, but zen, I feel peace, I feel calm. When I feel calm, and this is quiet and is not going 400 miles an hour, and it's not in the past going, you should have done that, and it's not in the future going, you need to do this, but I'm actually in the present moment, which is what Michael Jordan was incredible at, by the way. Incredible. When I'm in the present moment, that's when I feel my highest numbers, when I feel calm.
Yeah, I mean, athletes in flow state, that's the reason they get to where they get to. There's no way you're making a shot with 25,000 people in a stadium with that much pressure if you're thinking about anything else other than where the ball's going. I think even thinking about that it's just, yeah, too much. It's just complete zen. One of the things that you mentioned right at the beginning was that vulnerability.
Mm.
And I kind of want to ask a follow-on question to it, which is, do men need to be vulnerable?
I'm wondering if the word need is, I don't know if that's right. I don't know. But there's an element of, you could put any word there really, couldn't you? And change it, mix it up. Again, I think vulnerability follows safety. I think if you feel safe, then you can feel vulnerable, and then you can open up. So because you could replace that with being exposed. I'm feeling exposed. So again, they're all quite traumatic language, isn't it? So I get why you're asking that question. It's quite traumatic language, but I suppose it's a case of just feeling safe in a room, and being able to. Because if I think about my wife and the group, she's got a group called the Thursday Club, and they meet every Thursday. I think they can get together and talk openly, quite freely, without even thinking about it. Are they being vulnerable? Well, yes, but they're not thinking they're being vulnerable. They're not going, I'm going to go there and be vulnerable today. But they're allowing themselves to almost be open to whatever comes, and knowing that, I think what you said earlier is a really important, being judged. I think that's a really important word. And the safety part of it comes from I think if you think of words like banter, where is the line? I love banter and it's great and it's funny, but if it's in a safe environment, again, if you're in an environment with friends that that if they say something towards you, it's not coming from a place of hate or anger. It's coming from a
Yeah.
place of, actually, I do love you, but I like taking the piss out of you as well, and it's funny. Then that's different when it's from a complete stranger or someone online that you don't know, and it doesn't feel safe. That's why I don't post anything online, because I don't feel safe in that environment.
Yeah, it's an interesting one for sure. I've posted a few videos online, and it was a clip from a podcast, and I was saying something over and over and over again at each one, and the guy wrote it as the comment. And to be fair, it made me laugh because I was like, "That is exactly what I am saying." So I just went fair one, but I don't know where it was coming from, because it was like, was it hate, was it banter, was it, yeah, whatever. But it is an interesting sort of.
Well, that's why. And again, I think this plays into what we're talking about here. People going, well, actually, it doesn't feel safe to be vulnerable, because if I show vulnerability online, someone out there will take the piss or take advantage of me. Or like earlier when I said to you about, well, physically I have a penis, so that makes me a man. As soon as I said it, I thought, oh God, someone's going to give me some backlash for saying I've got a penis. That doesn't make you a man, and I don't
Yeah,
identify. And therefore, straight away, I'm like, oh no, I've said something wrong. I don't feel safe. So then you go, well, I might as well just say nothing at all then, and that's the problem. Is it's
yeah.
creating that safety. I think it's really, and that's what Talk Club does really well. Is we create a safe environment that you can come and talk.
Yeah, it's vulnerability is a strong word, and I've written an article before around earning it, and like, so for example, if a footballer comes out and says I'm having problems with my mental health, it's rewarded and applauded online, and everyone's commenting, going, so brave of you to open up, etc., etc. But if Dave did that on the building site, he probably would get a ribbing from
Yeah,
everyone and be like
yeah,
told to sort of man up and just
yeah.
crack on. We've got to finish what we're doing, mate. So not
Mm.
today, kind of thing. What's your thoughts on that? Or is that sort of the idea of creating those safer environments?
Sad. As you were saying it, I was like, yeah, it's true. It's sad. It is sad, but it's true. But it's also looking at from a wider angle of the whole community, of what we've all created. We've created every single man, and it's always unfair that we're using building sites as an example of that men aren't sensitive on building sites. But I get where we're going there. That it's a masculine environment, but we've also created the men on that building site. They've been
100%.
parented that way. They've been brought up that way. Society is labeled them that way. They are a creation of their environment, aren't they? They're going, well, this is what you expect from us, and this is who I am. This is how I'm going to behave. And I think that's why something that we want to try and create on building sites and any workplace is, that's why the how you out of 10 is a really nice, simple way of showing some vulnerability a little bit, opening up a little bit, and saying, actually, my numbers are low today, struggling a little bit, um, without you going too deep into what's going on, and be able to connect with each other. But I agree. We have created that, though. We've created. That it's unsafe to really say how you feel. I think it's got better. That's the thing, is I think sometimes in podcasts and books we focus a lot on the negativity, don't we? And I think there's so much positive, and that's why I responded with my first reaction to the man question was negative, and I was intrigued by that. And because there is so much positivity, so many things men are doing out there, so many charities that have been created, so many positive um, groups and men doing great things, and they're not celebrated enough. I know we want to do something next year about positive masculinity, rather than everyone's talking about toxic masculinity. And we're like, where's the positive masculinity? There's so many incredible men like yourself, Lewis, who are doing this podcast, who are asking the question, looking at society, and challenging that a little bit of going, are we doing enough? Are we all doing? And you know what? That is females as well, the women in people's lives. So many times you're hearing the man up language actually from a female partner or sister or mother. That language is coming from all angles, not just men. It's women too. So I think there's a wider question there.
Yeah, there's a lot of data towards sort of 16 to 25-year-olds and the increase in verbal domestic sort of violence towards boys from that women of that age, literally using that sort of terminology and sort of trying to re-grab hold of traditional roots to an extent, sort of maybe a bit of a pushback on feminism as well that may have sort of defeated its purpose for a lot of those girls. So it is an interesting time. Yes, there's a lot of good work being done, but there also seems to be little bits of society sort of picking at the threads and sort of creating new problems that were probably already solved that are now being sort of tainted a little bit, but it is what it is. Obviously, Talk Club is a group session. Yeah. You are also a therapist.
Yeah.
What do you think what is more useful for men? Do you think group sessions are more useful, or do you think one-on-one sessions are more useful for men?
As in the group therapy, it really does depend on the need. The main reason why we set up group therapy was because we were getting men coming to the talk and listen groups. They were checking in with numbers. Some were checking in with lower numbers. So anything, we sort of say the talk and listen and talk and exercise, ideally you want people between 5 and 10. Okay, the higher end of the scale, mental fitness wise. If their numbers drop below 5, then they need more professional support. And I felt like, as a safeguarding lead of the charity, we have a duty of care to provide something for those who need more support, because the talk and listen groups and any talking group out there, whoever it may be, there is a limit to what we can support. If a man comes in and he is suicidal or extremely low and low numbers, then they need more professional support. When a man comes to the talk and listen and we identify a captain, who they're called captains who run the groups, identifies that attendee has got a low number, we would then signpost them to our own therapy group and say, look, we've got therapy groups online and in person. Do you want to consider going it? Here's the information about it. So when they sign up, one thing we think is important at Talk Club is the continuity of care. That's something that's really lacking, unfortunately, in the NHS. Not NHS fault, it's just the way it is. But there's a lack of continuity of care in this country. Of, if I'm here, where do I go? And if I'm here, where do I go? If I feel this, what do I do? A lot of people actually don't know. They don't know what to do in a moment of crisis. They don't know what to do if they're struggling. Do I phone 111? Do I go to a GP? Do I call a friend? What? Hey. And so we wanted to create that continuity of care for Talk Club members. You come to Talk Club, you normally come in. So say, Lewis, you come into the Talk Club and you're normally a 6 or 7. And over the month, we notice your numbers have dropped a little bit. A few personal things are going on at home. You drop down to 5. We get you into the therapy group. It's 6 men for 8 weeks. You do 8 weeks of the group therapy. By the end of it, and also in that group therapy, we're checking numbers also. So we do the same in and out. How are you out of 10? So we've got the numbers. Your numbers are, by the time you finish the group, you're back up to an 8. Fantastic. Go back to the talk and listen and maintain your number. Continue that mental fitness. Stay mentally fit. Keep your numbers up. But if your numbers do drop, you can come to the group. Now, the great thing about that is you would have got that consistency from going to the talk and listen and going to the therapy group. You go, well, I'm used to being in groups. I talk in groups anyway. So it's fine. Yeah. Now, the one-to-one is very different. So, for example, if you've got someone who is bereaved, they may want a one-to-one session because they need that space. They need that one-to-one. They need to be held a little bit more than they can in a group. We do get people come to the group and after 1 or 2 sessions go, actually, yeah, I don't like it. It's this is not what I want. I actually know I want some more one-to-one, because obviously you're sharing the time.
Yeah,
There's 2 hours. You basically got about 15, 20 minutes each to talk. It's not a huge amount, but what's powerful about that as a group is you're hearing each other and supporting each other. So it's not for everybody, but I will say it's been very low numbers of people that have not seen out the whole 8 weeks, is what I'm trying to say. That we have a good I was going to say hit rate, but it's not hit rate, attendance rate. We have a good
yeah.
attendance rate of the sessions that men generally who come do complete. I would say 90% complete.
So are those sessions run by someone like yourself, or is it purely just done as a group session?
Yeah, so our talk and listen groups are run by captains who are trained up by us. They're volunteers. The therapy groups are run by fully qualified therapists, and we actually even have our own bespoke training. So if you are a therapist and interested in running a group with Talk Club, you come to us, and then we have got our own short-term psychotherapy group training that you have to attend and go on. It's paid for by the charity. It's a 2-day training, and we train up the therapists on how to run a group and what we expect from them, and blah, 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 safeguard and everything else. They do that, and then they can run a group online. So yeah, all those groups are run by qualified therapists.
Let's maybe talk a little bit more about some of the positives, right? Male loneliness is probably quite a big issue for men of a certain generation and a certain age. What are some of the, I guess, success stories or some of the things that have grown from Talk Club outside of it?
100% that the amount of men that have come to us because for example, if they've moved to the area and they don't know anybody, they've moved here for work and they've come along to a talk club just because they're lonely and they want to find a community of like-minded people. I had it last night. I run a talk and run on a Monday night, and we had someone turn up who'd been struggling over the weekend, and then went on a website, saw there was a run, turned up, fantastic. And I said that to him. I checked out a 9.5. I said, I'm a 9.5 because just seeing you here tonight has bumped my numbers up, because it's just amazing. You found us, you're here running, talking, fantastic. But so many times we hear from men saying, oh, it's fantastic now that they've made lifelong friends in some of these groups. Some of the talk clubs, I do know that they do the talk club session, and then after they go for a pint in the pub, and they've built a real community. And I think that's the thing that's lacking, sadly, Lewis, is we've lost that sense of community, and the social clubs and all those things that brought us all together has disappeared. And especially men, as they get older and they stop playing sport and they leave those communities, it's isolating. And then you're getting into the midlife transition of who am I, what's going on. And it's wonderful that we hear so many men say, I'm now part of the Talk Club community, and I feel I've found somewhere I belong and feel valued. And I'll never forget one guy coming to one of the early sessions, and he said to us, I love this. He said, because I don't feel heard at home. I don't feel heard at work. This is the only place I actually feel people listen to me. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's just incredible. That's amazing. And so the success of the groups is been amazing. And if anyone listening to this has got a brother, cousin, father, granddad, one of our oldest captains is 85 years old. So there's no way, the youngest is 18, the eldest is 85. Talk clubs there, get them to come along. If there's not a talk club in your area, we can help train you up and set one up. It's really that easy. We can help set one up in your area and get men talking. Yeah, it's been amazing to see that grow.
Yeah, it's been quite a nice shift. When I was a kid, it was sort of your midlife crisis was a leather jacket, a Porsche, and a younger wife. There does seem to be a bit of a shift and a bit of a change. There's a lovely book. I can't remember who wrote it, but your second peak, and sort of like people sort of try and find new purposes and new things like that. Outside of sport and those side of things, what would you suggest two men who are trying to find another community, like what sort of other spaces may they may not want to talk? What other sort of ideas would you suggest to them for community?
Yeah, I get that's why we set up the talk and run, because people don't want to sit in a circle and talk. They find that
Yeah,
quite it's quite intense. I get that. So that's why the running group's fantastic. There's so many running groups. I'm in Bristol, and there's so many running groups. We've even got a talk and skate, talk and lift,
cool.
you name it, talk and football. So it doesn't have to be. There's one group they were going to set up talk and chess, and there's talk and ping pong. It doesn't have to be sitting around, in a talking group. It can be, and it doesn't necessarily have to be, a sport. You can have talk and bowls. It's anything. It's just a way of checking in with each other, supporting each other. But yeah, I think volunteering is a really good way. Volunteering for a charity is a fantastic way as well. We put an advert out recently asking for volunteers, because we've always got so much support's needed for events, and it was amazing to see all the people contacting us saying, "Oh, I would like to be a volunteer, and can I help on this?" It was like, "Yeah, fantastic." So, and it was a real mixture of ages of people that are contacting us. So that's immersing yourself in the community and volunteering and being part of that. Highly recommend giving you, because I think purpose is really important. You were saying there about, it's referred to as a second adulthood, and getting into a second adulthood of finding some purpose. We tend to lose some purpose in life, and therefore then eventually lose a little bit of hope. So I think finding some purpose for yourself is really important.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate for that as well. I think that first step is always the hardest. I've told this story a few times, but when I moved back from London up north, I have a friend, and we because I was in the space, I think he felt a lot more comfortable talking to me, which was, again, if you can be that friend that starts, then you're going to get friends that open up to you, right, as well. And he was starting talking to me, and I was like, well, why don't you go and play football or something? He was like, I would love to play football, but I ain't getting to that football pitch. You've got no chance of getting me there. Like, I can't meet new people. I just can't do it. But fast forward a few years from there, and yeah, playing golf and going to comps on his own, like, it's not an issue anymore. But it's that first step, and just trying to, maybe just finding out what that is, that purpose again, right? It's not always what it
Mm.
used to be. I think we do hold on to our childhood and our quote unquote better years a little bit too much, and just still try and do something that we did as kids.
Absolutely. And I think, interestingly, going back to what I said earlier about when I ask clients if they like themselves, it's normally coming from where I'm really aware of how almost mean they are treating themselves, and the language they're using and the way they talk to themselves. And I think that's interesting what you said about your friend of, I can't meet new people. Almost like, but what they're saying is people don't want to meet me. They don't want to meet me. And that's what they're internally saying to themselves of, why would someone want to meet me? And I think that's interesting of, and I say that a lot to people, of being your own best friend. You're with you all the time. So
Yeah,
say nice things to you, because you're with you all the time. Treat yourself kindly. If you talk to me the way you talk to yourself, I won't want to be your friend. So be kind to yourself, and I think that I'm scared to meet new people, but I'm intrigued to meet new people, and I'm
yeah,
wondering what would happen if I did meet new people.
yeah, awesome. Sort of on the men's space as a whole, what do you like right now, and what do you want to see more of?
What I like, these conversations, people like yourself, Lewis, who are starting these conversations and asking really interesting and challenging questions and observations of what's going on, and holding up a bit of a magnifying glass to that. As I said, there's loads of fantastic charities out there. There's lots of walking groups, talking groups, and I think we will never have too many of them, because they will always be needed. So it's fantastic. I think, as I said to you earlier, what I would like to see is it coming from the wider community of being more kind, that's stopping this negative language about men, and then men can start to talk to themselves more kindly. I think that's it. It's you absorb this. We were saying earlier about the builders. Well,
Yeah.
they're who they are because of what we've created. That that, and I think that's true for all of us. Of we know if we can be kinder. I think compassion is the key word, absolute key word. Have more compassion for ourselves and more compassion for others, and be curious, and I think it would be a nicer world.
For sure. Gavin, it's been an absolute pleasure. If people have liked what they've heard and they want to find out more, where is the best place to find you? I will leave the final thoughts with yourself, but also, how are you out of 10?
Thanks, Lewis. You can find Talk Club at talkclub.org. Very simple. And when you go on talkclub.org, and around corner, it'll say a box says Start Talking. Click on there, and all the groups, therapy groups, everything will open up, and you can choose your area and you can find the groups that way. And I'm definitely going out on a 10 in this moment. I'm going to check out a 10 in this very second. And it's been amazing to talk to you, Lewis. And I've learned a lot about myself and about being a man. And yeah, thanks for inviting me on today.